All right, welcome to News Talk with Brandon and Bob. Here we are, Brandon Jones, Robert Harriman, and welcome to Year Zero. Are you familiar with Year Zero, Bob? You know what the reference is?
Go for it.
The reference has to do with like a Cambodia leadership where they basically just erased history, and they basically this is Year Zero now.
Is this the Khmer Rouge time?
I guess it was like it's some bizarre. So it's like, well, we're going to destroy statues, take down portraits. If you were in history, you will be held to today's Monday morning quarterback vision of what is right and wrong, and the moral police and cancel culture will come after you. So there you have it.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. This is just the wrong way to go about it. I mean, taking down. Let me see the different categories.
Wait, let me first ask you. Do you know how many statues were basically asked to be taken down before 1900?
Oh, I have no idea. A couple.
One.
All right.
1776. It was a statue of King George.
Okay, understandable.
That one actually kind of makes sense. We're not under King George's thing. That kind of makes sense, right? And then if you look at the ridiculous number, so we have some from like, we go off this massive fall off. We have like a few scattered ones where they remove a few things. And then between like 2010 and 2012, we have about a half a dozen. And most of those are like civic virtue and 10 commandments type things. The fights over freedom of expression, freedom of separation of church and state, those kinds of things on state and federal property, those kinds of things. At the writing of this is The Hill. They wrote this article. It was a few days ago. I think it includes the George Washington one. I know it includes the Thomas Jefferson one. You want to take a stab at how many we've removed just in the last few weeks?
80.
Well, okay, well, you're way, okay, yeah. It wasn't anywhere close to that.
Okay.
They only counted like 33.
Okay, still.
But that's a massive number when you think about, we went 124 years and we removed one. That includes the Civil War. We went through the Civil War and didn't take statues down. This is crazy. And now we're going to say, oh, well, you know what? We just wanted to do. All right, so then let me just throw more gasoline on this ridiculous fire.
It's a different mentality today, though.
In 2017, there was this quote. This was a tweet. It's sad to see history and culture of our great country be ripped apart with the removal of our beautiful statues and monuments. I cannot do his impression of him. Can't change history, but you can learn from it. Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson. Who's next? Washington, Jefferson. So foolish. Also, the beauty that has been taken out of our cities, towns, and parks will be greatly missed and never able to be comparably replaced. 2017. He was mocked. Trump was mocked when he tweeted that because taking down Confederate statues, Lee and Stonewall Jackson, is not the same as Washington and Jefferson. And what did we see in the last couple of days?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, you give it an inch, they take a mile. It's not going to stop either. It is. It's a shame that they're going to try to act as if none of this happened. And I get it. If I was African-American, I was going by a Robert E. Lee statue, maybe it probably would bother me. But is crime, vandalism, destruction of property the way to go?
Of course not.
Let it go through the proper channels, and I think a lot of municipalities have no problem of moving these things. Maybe they shouldn't be in a public area. So I'm not opposed to it. And if I was a Jew and there was a statue of Hitler, I would be pretty. But
I would go through the county and say, listen, we need to get this removed. What do I need to do to get it removed? Get a petition. We'll honor the petition. We'll figure out who's going to pay for that. We'll figure out where it's going to go. Maybe we'll sell it and use the money to pay for, a surplus of things to do a restoration, put up a new statue, whatever you have to do. Instead, we lopped the head off of Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
What does he got to do with all this? I mean, that's a completely different topic.
But it doesn't matter.
I know it doesn't
matter.
I know.
It is. I think it's an attack on Western civilization. It really is. And
he's got his glasses on, folks. Here it comes.
Well, just to tell you
here it comes.
How ill-informed a lot of these people are that are tearing down statues. Here we go. I found this very interesting. I never heard of this guy before, so I plead ignorance. But in Philadelphia City Hall, protesters vandalized a statue of Matthias Baldwin. You ever hear of him?
I don't have that one in my my database.
And they painted colonizer on it and started trying to destroy.
Where is it again?
Philadelphia.
I got nothing.
Okay. And then even AOC, your friend and mine, said people really need to ask themselves why their communities chose to erect statues to slaveholders instead of abolitionists next to a picture of Matthias Baldwin. Well, who was Matthias Baldwin? Well, he started a great business up there and employed a lot of people, and even after his death, he made sure those people kept on being employed. It was trains or engineering or some kind of firm like that. But in addition to being an inventor and a great philanthropist, he was a very noted abolitionist at the time. So
the ignorance runneth over.
Yeah. So this is AOC.
So Matthias Baldwin is an abolitionist.
Yeah,
had a statue erect because he was basically a commerce capitalist.
He set up schools to educate black children too.
Okay, so he's a dude that's doing abolition work, educating black kids, giving people jobs, running businesses. He passes away, statue goes up, and now in all this chaos, we just take him down as well. Colonizer.
Yeah. And of course, one of our favorite Congress people was all on board with that. Yeah, great. I get it. I mean,
I don't get it.
I didn't understand who he was, but
I don't understand.
Make the effort.
Well, I think you're right in the sense of this is all just America is bad, racist stuff, very extreme left, Marxist stuff. We do not have a problem getting rid of anything. It doesn't matter what statue it is. It doesn't matter what that person did. It doesn't matter who that person was. So let me ask you this. So we'll change to a different kind of a part B of this topic in a minute. Some of the other things under one of our, I'll call it the cancel culture segments. What statues are next? Like there's no line. The line keeps moving. So it was Confederacy. And so let me say something too. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. So let me start with one that I agree with. So for me, if I was in a school district and I found out my kid had to go to a school and it was the Robert E. Lee Elementary, that probably wouldn't be particularly thrilling for me to know that I got to have my kid wear a Robert E. Lee t-shirt, play for the Robert E. Lee Bears or whatever they were called. I mean, okay, so you fill out a petition, you have the school change the name. There's someone else they can change it to. No problem, right? And there's a whole lot more things we should be doing, right? I have no problem. I think it's a great idea to have Frederick Douglass on currency. Sure. Let's see Booker T on some currency. Harriet Tubman's been talked about. Why not? Who cares? I don't understand why we don't have more denominations and stuff anyway. Let's just figure this out, right? Let's get rid of some of these coins or make new coins. I don't really care what you do. I would rather have more representation than less anyway. Like, that's why I'm actually so frustrated by this. In Washington of all, and when you read the biographies, and there are so many that are just so detailed, when you get into that the slaves that were owned when he and Martha were together, they're their own families. And many times they were conjoined together as a new family, a new African-American family that raised up families of their own. That freeing of the slaves would have meant they would have broken up these families. They wouldn't have been allowed to stay together. There would have been all this red tape keeping these families together. There's so much red tape with what was happening in real time. It's a travesty to tell a man that led the military acquisition of victory to become the United States, and then for over a decade, developing the paperwork to become the United States, then serving as a president when they're asking him then to serve as king, become the new King George, and he says no, that, oh, no, he's got to have a bag over his head. He's got to be cut down to, we have not moved an inch, we have moved a marathon. Because the difference between Stonewall Jackson and Robert E. Lee and George Washington is so ridiculously big. This is beyond radical. We have jumped into a completely different territory. Am I off base at all?
No, not at all. And I think this really pinpoints a major problem that's been going on in our country for decades is education. These people don't know anything.
They don't get any history.
They don't know anything. I talk to people at work that are in their late 20s, 30s. They know nothing about history. It's not being taught.
They don't get any in elementary school. I talked about this with my kids. One of the reasons we homeschooled my kids was there was no history. None. Once you get to fourth grade and FCAT, the closest thing you get to history are these little snippets. It has more to do with politics. It has to do more with like doing a little survey on an election or something nothing. No history. And then when they get history, some in high school and even college, this revisionist Marxist stuff, right? Nothing that they do that's positive. It's always about he owned a slave.
Well,
No,
it is.
right.
I mean, I think history classes in college now,
Yeah.
or in high school, is slavery, dropping the atomic bomb,
Yeah.
and every possible thing that is negative, and nothing about
Freedom
positive
and
stuff.
yep.
But I have a quiz question for
Oh
you.
boy, I don't do well on quizzes, on
Alright,
pop,
okay.
pop quizzes from
You'll enjoy this.
from Bobbert.
There's a statue in Seattle that didn't get knocked down.
Oh, okay.
Can you even think of it? They've been hands off on this particular statue. It's a statue of Lenin. L-E
We have a statue of Lenin.
in Seattle.
Okay, so this is the Soviet
Yes.
dictator
Yes.
responsible for tens of millions. I don't know exactly the figure off the top of my head, right?
So Stalin was responsible for most of the deaths.
Okay.
But Lenin really started the whole communist revolution over there.
Okay, so we have a statue. First off, I'm shocked that we have a statue
Yeah.
in Seattle.
It's unblemished.
Wow.
Touched. Yeah. I
Well-
did look it up. I knew it existed. I just looked it up to see if anybody had touched it.
All right, so we've gone so far to Washington. So we've gone in between. So I mean, how long until Woodrow Wilson is targeted? Because this is a guy that actually played Birth of the Nation, right? This is a KKK guy.
He was a known racist.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get into, the Great Society era where you have, Johnson, you have this, they're known racists. So how long until that's part of this? A week?
No, I don't think it'll be touched.
You don't think so?
No.
I think we've given them so much. They got to keep this rolling. If they come off the gas at all,
No, because
I'm not sure that if you're going to pull the roots, you got to keep pulling.
because you don't look. I mean, this is my opinion, of course. You don't look to LBJ or Woodrow Wilson as founders of this country. They're just not. They want to destroy the people that founded this country, that made this country the unique thing that it is today. Woodrow Wilson took us into socialism. LBJ took us into socialism.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these other guys.
But there's so much racism and oppression of the black community that when they find out about that,
Well, if they find out,
it's got to come.
people love LBJ.
Yeah, but we're scrolling through Twitter to find things that people said a decade ago to use against them to stop from running office. We're not gonna point out Birth of the Nation.
I could be wrong. I doubt it, though.
Okay.
I doubt it. They
All right,
should.
so I'm going to go with a bet that it's short term. You're going to say not at all for now.
Or very long term.
Very long term. Okay. All right. So, we've done this. We're through anyone that is associated at all with Civil War and Confederacy. Obviously, all the way back to the founders and all of that. What else is on the target for these folks, and what else is coming, in your opinion?
Oh, jeez. I don't know.
You think there are other writers and other names? I mean, obviously there's portraits at like the Capitol. Pelosi was talking about portraits, which are probably Democrats, by the way, talking about Confederate speakers.
Oh, she took them down, 4 of them.
They didn't know if they were down yet or not, but they were going to come down. I know.
I don't know who they were. I never saw the names of these people, so I haven't.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think there's any stopping. I just don't know what's next. I don't know. The thing that's really disturbing me is, A, we can see the problem with the education system. B, we see the police not doing their job again. They are not protecting anything. And we talked about this a couple episodes ago. They are just not protecting anything.